I have a question for you. What do you think would happen if everyone in the world got $1 million? Let me know in the comments down below what you think would happen. But that is the $1 million question of the day. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're feeling well. And let's talk about what would happen if everyone in the world suddenly received $1 million and everyone overnight became a millionaire. What would happen? So according to the annual Global Wealth Report, millionaires make up around 0.9% of the entire global population, and yet they own over half of the world's global wealth at $361 trillion. Meanwhile, the bottom half, or 56% of people, which is roughly 1 out of every 2 people in this world, only owns 1.8% of the global wealth. Now, the idea of giving money away to people for free is becoming very popular lately, with governments talking about stimulating more of the economy with $1,200 stimulus checks for everyone like we saw this year, and even Andrew Yang's plan of basic universal income of $1,000 a month that he's proposed in the form of dividend payments. Now, I'm all about dividends, but I wanted to talk about this idea purely from a non-political perspective, just to see what would happen if everyone all of a sudden became a millionaire. Because if that were to happen, a lot of people would be very happy and they'd have a ton of ideas on what to do with it. For example, the Charles Schwab Modern Wealth Survey asked people what they would do with $1 million, and 21% said that they would save that money for a rainy day. And that's pretty smart, considering that saving is one of the basic keystone principles of personal finance, is to save an emergency fund worth between 3 to 6 months that will pay off your expenses, and that's one of the basic financial principles. But to save the entire $1 million is probably wasteful and not necessary, because there's a lot more useful strategies that you can do that will get you a lot farther. So luckily, another 23% of people said they would invest that money, which is awesome, because if you can invest $1 million the right way, that's literally all you need, because you will never run out of money if you can live off of $40,000 a year, as long as that money is continually invested in the stock market with an average rate of return of just 7% per year, which is pretty easy. And the idea behind this is that $1 million, 4% you withdraw for yourself every year, that's $40,000 that you live off of, and the other 3% that makes up 7 is just going to continue to generate interest for you. Therefore, you're never going to dip below that $1 million threshold, therefore infinite money cheat code. And that's not just a film theory either, because that's something you can do for real by going inside of something like the Robinhood app and buying a stock like VTI, which is Vanguard's total US stock market index fund ETF, tracks the entire US stock market, and it gives you a rate of return of about 7% per year. So if you can continually do this and use this strategy, then you will theoretically never run out of money. So that is 23% of people. Another 28% of people said they would use this money to pay down debt, which is great because one of the worst forms of debt is credit card debt, which can charge us upwards of 23%. So getting rid of bad debt is one of the smartest decisions we can make. But the other half, or 54% of people asked, said that they would use that money on leisurely expenses like buying a house, a car, or even traveling. Now, this is good for your soul because hopefully we are put here on earth to do more than just work, pay our bills, and then disappear. But what this study didn't take into account is what would happen if everyone got $1 million, because some interesting things start to happen. So first, let's just assume that everyone in the world tomorrow found out that they had $1 million in their bank account. And for the people that are unbanked, let's just assume they found $1 million in cash somewhere. So here's exactly what would happen. In theory, nothing would happen. Because think about it. If you gave everyone $1 million, then the relative value of that $1 million becomes equal to everyone else. So giving everyone $1 million would be like giving everybody a single dollar where nothing would happen. But that's a theory, because in reality, bad things would happen, because society and the economy would sort of break and collapse under the weight of what just happened. But first, let's point out the obvious, because while it's true that anyone can become a millionaire, not everyone will become a millionaire, because that's not how statistical mathematical averages work. But if we were to force that situation to happen where everyone rose to be above average, then this new above average then suddenly becomes the average, because the value of being a millionaire would significantly decrease. What's the point of being a millionaire if everyone else in the world is too? So everyone sort of cancels everyone out, and it's a net zero effect in that theory. But the reality would look a lot different. So if that were to happen for real, one of the first few things you'd see see is people would go out in mass and start buying everything they can get their hands on. And that means more traffic, more accidents, more hysteria, more looting and rioting, basically Black Friday all over again. And this is because as news of this $1 million giveaway spreads, this takes into effect bit by bit, but not all at once, as businesses have to readjust their prices to meet this new spike in demand from all these newly minted millionaires. And some people would be able to take advantage of this mismatch in prices for that first hour. But after that, things begin to change. That's because businesses would not be able to supply everybody with enough stuff once everyone in the world is a millionaire, so they'd be forced to shut down. That means restaurants, movie theaters, grocery stores would all have to shut down in order to reprice everything in their stores. And this could last anywhere from a day to several weeks, depending on how much they have to reorganize their supply chains. And that means the McDonald's dollar menu is now going to be the $100 menu, the movie tickets are going to be $100 a ticket, and a Toyota Corolla is going to be $150,000, while BTC would almost literally go to the moon. This is basic supply and demand economics, because as we have more demand and supply decreases, the price has to go upwards in order to balance the two out. It's also why the dark side of the force is actually not bad at all, and it's necessary to keep a balance in the force. It's also why the Empire did nothing wrong, and I've been watching too much Mandalorian. I digress. Baby Yoda. By the way, this is also true for real estate because home prices and rents would skyrocket almost 100% overnight. And that's because landlords know they can get away with charging more money because they know that people would be able to afford to pay those prices. So now everyone wakes up and realizes they're paying San Francisco Bay Area prices without actually living there. But the biggest winners of all of this are people that have invested their money. Believe it or not, the people that would benefit the most from this $1 million giveaway are those with invested assets before the giveaway took place. Because as soon as that would happen, most people would go out and start to buy luxury brand names, brand goods, expensive cars, and maybe some would invest in real estate, some would invest in the stock market, but that would only drive the price of assets even higher, benefiting those who were already invested before people became millionaires, aka nerds like you watching these YouTube videos. But overall, the cost of living would significantly increase across the board, and most people would go broke between 6 months to 1 year after receiving their $1 million. Similarly to why many athletes go broke despite earning tens of millions of dollars throughout their career. Not only because they lack basic financial literacy and because of lifestyle inflation, but mostly because they didn't subscribe to my YouTube channel and they didn't smash the like button, so don't be like those guys. Now, if this all sounds like it's impossible and would never happen to us, believe it or not, it has happened in the past and it's happening right now. And this mostly happens to corrupt countries where the governments are mismanaging their funds and they think they can print their way out of economic debt. But the US right now has around $27 trillion worth of debt. So what stops us from turning on the printing machines, cranking it on, and then printing $27 trillion just to pay for the national debt? Well, this is why. Let me show you something really cool. These are bolivars. Bolivars are the currency of Venezuela. I got these because I thought they were really beautiful and I'm obsessed with artwork on money, but I also wanted to show you that there's some insanely high denominations of bills ranging from a $2 bill to as high as 20,000. And now you need a bag full of cash just to be able to go grocery shopping. Now, obviously that is not practical, so they have to keep making bills in higher denominations to the point where the money is not even worth the paper that it's printed on, and that's called hyperinflation. Countries like Yugoslavia, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela have all experienced it when they tried to print their way out to solve their economic problems. For example, one of the worst cases of this happened in Zimbabwe from March 2007 to November 2008, when the daily inflation rate reached a peak of 98%. So every 24.7 hours, the price of stuff just doubled. So you could go to sleep, wake up the next morning, go to the grocery store just to find out that the price of stuff you bought the day before is now worth literally twice as much. This happened every day for a year and a half. It got so bad that the government had to print bills so large that it became ridiculous. I know this because I have one of these bills. $10 trillion, which means technically I'm now a trillionaire. And with this one bill, I can pay a third of the entire US national debt. All I need are 2 more bills and I'm done. You're welcome. I will never financially recover from this. Now, as funny as that is, the US is actually doing this as well, but at a slower pace than some of these other countries. The Federal Reserve does this by issuing credit in the form of bonds, therefore increasing the US national debt. And the people that pay that debt are the citizens of the country itself, which is also why every taxpayer in the US owes roughly $218,000, which is also why they say that our children will pay for it in the future in the form of higher interest rates, which leads to a lower national savings rate, a lower average income rate, higher tax rates, and a higher chance for a financial crisis to happen. Now, since I'm not an economist and I can't solve the world's economic problems, I make silly YouTube videos online, I do have one possible solution. One way is to rethink the way that we think about money in general. So instead of treating it like something we should distribute around the world equally and pay everyone else the same, which sounds like a great idea on paper but doesn't work in real life, to instead making it more like a capitalistic approach to the money itself. So instead of the government having the ability to give everyone $1 million overnight or to print more whenever it wants, to instead letting it compete on a global level, almost privatizing it. Let the tech companies compete to create the best form of money. So instead of having a national currency like the Bolivar or the dollar, instead we'd get something like Facebook Libra or Google Gil or whatever it could be that we as a society could either reject or accept depending on which of these we find the most valuable. And no central point of authority like a company or a government in the ideal world should be able to control it. That way no one can just say, let's give everyone $1 million and print more money because we know that would be bad for everyone. And in the ideal world, we as a public should be able to access something like a public ledger where we can track this money to see where our taxes are being spent so we can either reject it or accept it and vote the right people into power because we know exactly how our money is being allocated. This also gives the opportunity for third world countries to be elevated and compete at a first world economic level because it gives the citizens the opportunity to go around their corrupt governments to give them an actual savings plan and a net worth that doesn't deteriorate by half in the span of 24.7 hours because that is upsetting. A currency that is governed by the laws of mathematics, that is completely decentralized, that was created by the people and for the people. There must be something like that out there already. Can't think of it. But if you want to get started with investing, you can get 3 free stocks with Webull using my link down below by depositing $100. 2 of those stocks could be valued up to $1,600 each. You can get a 4th free stock from Robinhood. And if you like digital currencies, you can use my link right here and get up to $250 in free digital currencies, earning you 8% compound interest on your money. But please remember, this is not FDIC insured, so there is a risk of loss. Having said that, you can reach out to me on Instagram, join my free Discord group, and write to me with my PO box down below. Love you. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you back here on Monday and Friday, sometimes a Wednesday. Goodbye, Scarlett.